Chhalawa refers to a haunted place, or in other words, a mysterious phenomenon where a person unknowingly enters another world that seemingly doesn't even exist. Once trapped there, nothing remains under your control, and you may witness things you would never wish to see. According to those familiar with such paranormal experiences, one way to recognize a Chhalawa is when strange incidents begin repeating themselves over and over. If that starts happening, it may mean you've entered its realm. Today's story was sent to us by Trisha. It is based on a terrifying experience that happened to her father many years ago. At that time, her father worked as a government driver in Saharanpur district, Uttar Pradesh, driving an official vehicle for a government officer because of his job. He often had to travel to different cities with his officer, sometimes staying away from home for 2 or even 1 day. He drove his officer to another city and dropped him at his home. When he returned 2 days later, he looked extremely ill. He then told us about the horrifying experience he had gone through, how he became trapped inside a Chhalawa, and how, by the blessings of Goddess Kali, he survived. The story you are about to hear is based entirely on his own experience. I have simply adapted it into a narrative. So now, let me tell you the story from his perspective. My name is Kashraj. I had been working as a driver for many years, and because of my job, I often had to travel to unfamiliar places. Back then, there were no mobile phones or GPS like we have today. It happened on the day I had dropped my officer at his house. When I reached there, I found that his mother had just returned from the Char Dham pilgrimage. As soon as I entered the house, she handed me some sacred prasad and tied a holy thread around my wrist without giving me a chance to refuse. My only concern at that moment was to leave as quickly as possible, because I had a long journey ahead, around 150 to 200 kilometers. After having a light meal at their house, I prepared to leave. Just before I departed, my officer's mother handed me a folded piece of paper and said, "Keep this in your vehicle. Later, get it framed and place it in front of the car." I didn't even bother to check what it was. I simply slipped it into my pocket and started my journey back. On the way, I filled the fuel tank and left the city. Unfortunately, it seemed as though fate had other plans for me that day. By afternoon, one of my tires got punctured. Changing it took nearly an hour. After resuming my journey, I had barely driven a few kilometers when I encountered a massive traffic jam on a mountain road. My car remained stationary for almost 30 minutes. When I asked around, I learned that there had been a serious accident further ahead. By then, I was already frustrated. So much of my time had been wasted, and now this traffic had delayed me even further. It was winter, and evening was beginning to set in. The cold was becoming increasingly harsh. About half an hour later, the traffic finally started moving slowly. As I drove ahead, I noticed a few local villagers walking with their families through the hills, rolled down my window and called out, "Brother, how long is the traffic ahead?" One of them looked back and replied, "I'm not sure, but the line of vehicles looks very long." To be honest, I was exhausted from driving continuously. I asked him another question. "Is there any other route out of here?" He shook his head. "No, this is the only proper road." Disappointed, I thanked him. Just then, a boy of about 14 or 15, who had walked a little ahead, suddenly turned back and came towards my car. "My father is right. There's no proper road from here. but there is a dirt track. We're taking that route ourselves. If you drive your vehicle down that path, you'll have to take a longer route through a few villages and a forest, but you'll eventually bypass the traffic and reach the highway much sooner. After saying this, he hurried away, speaking in his local mountain dialect as he caught up with his family. I thought about it for a moment, frustrated with the traffic and eager to get home. I decided to take the shortcut. I turned my car off the main road and onto the rough dirt track. After driving a few kilometers, I passed through a small village. However, as I continued, I realized the darkness was beginning to fall. I asked a few villagers for directions and kept moving forward. Soon, there were no more villages, only dense forest stretching endlessly ahead. This must have been the same forest the boy had mentioned. Before driving any farther, I stopped the car to reassure myself that I was still on the right path.